Hello, hello. My name is James McCool. I am the owner of PaterTacos.io, and I build models and stuff. And today we are going to be going over some of the MLB stuff. For this specific slate, I made some changes to the models, specifically to the leverage model. The leverage algorithm for the models. Just because after the conversation that Blender and I had this morning over on the Rotogrinder show, I kind of thought about a better way to implement leverage in the models using the leverage formulas that we already had. So I decided to make that change and kind of like change things up a little bit. Small baby child. Anyway, there was Damascus. If you guys have not gotten to meet him yet, or seen pictures of him, or etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, I know Twitch. It does feel like football season. Well, football season's coming up, so like I have to remember how to use Twitch. Like, I have this cool screen now. I have this cool screen now. I have this cool screen now. Like, all of this stuff was made by JT in the Discord. So I have all these cool things now that I can use. So I'm probably like, I want to start streaming more and talking. I don't know, maybe about like breaking down the day before, looking at models, recapping things, like having some more dedicated days where I get on Twitch because I do like streaming. So, yeah, I should do this more. But that being said, what's up, Ultra Runner? How you doing, man? Taking a break in between marathon training. If you guys don't know, Ultra Runner is a legit, like, ultra marathon runner. And he is, I mean, he's very good at DFS, obviously, but he's also very good at running, I assume. Running? Jogging? Do you run or jog ultra marathons? What is the definition of, like, an actual, like... Because, like, you're running the entire time, right? Yeah, fuck that, man. that's so much running. I have no idea how you do that. It's insanity. Literally insanity. We are drinking green drink today because I just ate Chick-fil-A. And I need to be healthier about things like that. Over 26.2 miles in Ultra. That's nuts. You ran 1.5 miles a day. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I just finished a large fry from Chick-fil-A, so that was my cardio. Anyway, let's talk about the models a little bit. So as you can see, here is the model that goes up on the site. There's also this model, if you guys remember it from last year, which is the other model, like the what I call the legacy sheets. So you can see both of those on the site, obviously. Anyway, these are the models for today. So as you can see, if you're a subscriber over at Patered already, the LevX has changed a little bit. So now it is LevX GPP percentage and the FanDuel LevX GPP percentage. So the conversation that Blender and I had today on the show was kind of centered around how much you actually want of specific teams or how much exposure you want to specific GPP plays based on how efficient the market is towards how owned they are. I feel like seeing my face can be better for this. So basically, like, if we think that the Cubs are going to be 52% owned, then what does that mean in terms of how much we want to have them? Because it doesn't necessarily mean that we want an aggregate of 52% ownership in our portfolios, right? It doesn't mean that we want 64% of the Pirates, right? Like, that's not necessarily what it means. When it comes to developing an aggregate, or when it comes to developing a GPP percentage to certain teams, what you actually want to know is how much you want against how much the field has based on how well those teams are supposed to do. So in the marbles example earlier on the Rotogrinder show, Blender was talking about if a red marble is going to be under-owned, then you want a proportionally larger amount of red marbles compared to how often red marbles end up being the winner. So we can see the same thing here with the Cubs. Like, the Cubs are the top scoring team 17% of the time, right? So if they're going to be owned 52% as an aggregate, I put together some math that makes it so that it takes that aggregate, it takes and compares that against the 8+ runs percentage and the top score percentage, and then does some cool math, and then spits out how much we want in GPPs relative to the optimal amount. So if the optimal amount is some combination of top score and 8+ runs percentage, then we can take that and we can apply that against the aggregate ownership, and we can come up with how much we want to have maximum in GPPs. So this is not what you should aim to have. This is the maximum amount that you should have. As you can see, things are pretty spread out here for both DraftKings and FanDuel, and that makes a lot of sense considering there's no individual team that looks like they're going to be like the top scoring overall a significant amount of the time. And also, like, sometimes we'll have 8+ runs percentages where like this is like 40%, or like we have a whole bunch of teams that are 30%, and today we don't have that. They're all under 30%. So things being spread out here makes a lot of sense. We have the same thing over here in the range of outcomes. I have the LevX GPP applied against the percentage chance that a pitcher scores 25 or more. So it's a combination of these two probabilities against the ownership percentage. So like for DraftKings, Alex Manoah, even though he has like an okay chance to be the top overall scoring pitcher, and my models don't like him against the White Sox, but he has an okay chance, he's going to be owned 49% by the field. So with the math that I put into this and the formula that I put together to find the maximum that you want in GPP percentages, you would only want 18% of him in your MME portfolio. Daniel Lynch, on the other hand, like if he's only going to be owned 1%, you want a lot of him. You want like 52% of him because the field is undervaluing him by that much. We have that for pitchers as well. So Alex Manoah over on FanDuel, like at 37% owned, you only want like 2% of him. You could basically just like cross him out in GPPs based on my models, but you would want a lot of Lance Lynn, you'd want a lot of Daniel Lynch. So I wanted to kind of like mention those things and talk through those things. And just like, yeah, take some questions. Like usually I will post in the Discord and say, hey, here are my favorite stacks. Here are the things that the models are saying. Here's the pitchers. Here's the combination that I would go for DraftKings and FanDuel, which I will do today, but I will do here rather than posting it over in the Discord. Like I'll post it over in the Discord as well, but I'll do that like 5 minutes before lock or something like that, because I kind of want to just like talk and answer questions and like chat for a bit on here rather than doing it in a Discord, because yeah, I just wanted to do that. Ugh. If I'm doing an Oakland stack, do I need Pinder? I feel like the sheets like Pinder too much. Let's go take a look at how much the sheets like Pinder. Let's see. Pinder is projected as the top overall, but like when you look at it, like 9.48 compared to 9.4, I mean, is it really that much more? No, not really. But I mean, the savings is really, really nice for him. So in order to make it work, I mean, if you're going to get Matt Chapman, Jed Lowry, Starling Marte, like these other guys that project well, you might as well go with Chad Pinder. I mean, like, from a points per dollar standpoint, and also you can have him at second base. Like, second base is such a premium position, and like a position that is like harder to fill unless you're going with like a premium position. I don't know why you wouldn't go with Pinder in a stack, unless you are just like absolutely just not into the correlation difference that he is giving. Like, where is he in the order today? Says the guy who built projections earlier. Okay, so he's hitting 8th. Yeah, so I mean, you can do a wraparound, right? Like, you can do Chad Pinder into Mark Canha, into Starling Marte, into Matt Olson. And you can have a 4-man stack, and that's pretty good. Like, I don't think that is terrible. And, I mean, again, second base projects okay. Like, if you're doing an Oakland stack, I don't see why you wouldn't have him. Only outfield eligible? Okay, so that changes some things. If he's only outfield eligible, like, I don't know, at that point, you're obviously prioritizing Matt Olson and Matt Chapman, and you're probably going to prioritize Yan Gomes. So you still have room to have Starling Marte, and Chad Pinder. If you're doing a 5-man. If you're doing a 4-man, you probably are skipping Chad Pinder if you're only doing a 4-man, because at that point you're probably going to do Yan Gomes, Matt Chapman, Starling Marte, and Matt Olson. And then you can have the other 2 outfield spots for whatever other stack you're trying to use. Oh, dog, so on DK you would essentially remove the Astros Yankees from your player pool. If I was doing single entry, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even consider them in single entry. If I was doing an MME, if I had 150 lineups, I would have some Astros and some Yankees. I would have like 5 lineups maybe, of those, just to have them, because they are so highly owned. But like, I don't know, you guys know me. I prefer to be mostly all or nothing when it comes to really, really heavy chalk. Like, if my models hate the Astros that much, and if my models think that Daniel Lynch is that much better than the field does, then yeah, I'm just going to fade the hell out of the Astros. The Yankees coming in a little bit lower. Like, when I did when I ran the models earlier, like when I ran optimals, let me show you guys what that came into. So when I ran the optimals earlier, this is what we came up with. So it was giving me 100% Alex Manoah. It was giving me a lot of Zach Greinke. And then when we go over into stack summary, like, we were getting a lot of Houston, we got a lot of Arizona, and we got a lot of Oakland. Not as much Yankees. So I think that Houston is probably going to be where the majority of the ownership ends up. I think the Yankees are probably going to come in like relatively highly owned, but I think the Astros, we're looking at like the 35 to 40% owned range, I would think, on the main Astros players. Like, maybe the bottom of the order isn't that high, but I think aggregate ownership, the Astros are going to come in so much higher than any other team. So, like, I would cross off the Astros today. I just wouldn't use them. Especially, like, if you're going to have this much Daniel Lynch, right? Like, if the LevX is telling you to have 52% max Daniel Lynch, and he's projecting as well as he is, like 6,500, he projects for 17 fantasy points. Like, yeah, just use Daniel Lynch. Don't use the Astros. Help measure, how can I use LevX for SE? Let's see. So for SE, like, I think that you pretty much are going to just be wanting to go from the top down. And like, what I do for SE is I will look at a couple different things. Like, first I'll look at the scoring percentages, and I'll take note of the top teams here, like Cubs, Pirates, Rockies, Athletics. So, like, those are the 4 teams that have the highest 8+ runs percentage. And then I'm going to go over stack projections, and I'm going to look and see what the top teams are here in terms of average projection. Why is it not going average projection? So it's Pirates, Cubs, Rockies, Mariners. I think that's the same thing, right? So Cubs, Pirates, Rockies. The Mariners don't project quite as well as some of the other teams, but they project okay, right? And the Athletics are still there too. So the top 3 that are from both right now are the Pirates, Cubs, and Rockies. And then I'll go over to the stack ranks and I'll look at this. So the top rank is the Astros, but then it's Cubs, Pirates, Athletics. So if I was going to be building single entry, like, what teams are kind of like the top of each one of those 3, right? It's going to be the Cubs, the Pirates, and then the Athletics are kind of like up there. The Rockies drop a little bit there. The Athletics drop a little bit here. So it's really like the Cubs and the Pirates. If I was going to go single entry, that's where I would be focusing. And then after I decide that, I would be looking and saying, all right, well, do they offer, like, how owned are they going to be? Are they 2 of the top owned stacks? Like, if the Cubs and the Pirates are going to be the top overall stacks, then I would know that I would have to be different at pitcher. So then I'm going to go over into the DraftKings range of outcomes, and what I usually do is sort by 25 to 30 fantasy points. And then I'll look and I'll see, okay, so if I already have the 2 top owned teams on the slate, which is, we're just talking about things right now because they're not, like, I don't even have to do this. If the Cubs and the Pirates are the teams that I'm stacking, I can play whoever I want at pitcher. It doesn't even really matter. But, like, say they were going to be the highest overall owned combination, then I would want to look here and I'd say, okay, I really, really don't want to use Alex Manoah, and I probably don't even want to use Lance Lynn. But I'm fine using Daniel Lynch. I'm fine using Jordan Montgomery because both of those guys are going to come in under-owned. So I know that I can get a lot of leverage at pitcher if I go with that combination rather than going with the combination of Alex Manoah and Lance Lynn. So that's how I build single entry. 3-max, like I kind of take note of like the top 4 teams, the top 3 or 4 teams, and then I kind of round robin them. So I would go 3-max today. I'd go Cubs, Pirates, and Rockies, and then I would have a Cubs, Pirates lineup. I would have a Cubs, Rockies lineup, and then I have a Pirates, Rockies lineup. And then that way I can round robin those 3 teams, and I can get a combination of each one of the 3. Now, I am super like accepting of risk. So when I say that I would do that, I know that if 2 of those 3 teams don't just like crush, then I know that I'm like dead for the day. I know that I'm dead. So if you are more risk averse than that, then make sure that you are spreading things out a little bit more, maybe in 3-max. Instead of going just Cubs, Pirates, Rockies and round robining that, you have a Cubs, Pirates, you have a Rockies, Athletics, and you have a Diamondbacks, Braves. Maybe that's the way that you want to do it. Maybe you want to hedge your stuff in 3-max. Like maybe you want to have a Daniel Lynch lineup, and maybe you want to have a Rockies lineup. There are a lot of different ways to go about it, but a lot of it is just like, if you're building and you're risk averse, then you want to spread out your risk. If you're very accepting of risk, like I am, then you can round robin the top 3 teams in the models, and you can just go with that. Sheer Magic 9, Hermosillo. Yeah. So, I mean, that's like, it's short sample stuff, of course, but, everybody who knows the way that I like to do modeling knows that I like to accept the risk on these like really short sample stuff. So as you can see, like Michael Hermosillo for the Cubs is the top overall projected player at 15.6 fantasy points. Obviously that is a short sample thing. So like when you see this, a lot of people who have not been with me for a long time will see it and be like, oh, well, that's absolutely wrong. That's absolutely wrong. It's like, maybe it's wrong. Most of the time it's probably going to be wrong. But the times where the model picked up, because the model is doing that for a reason, right? Like, it's not that this person is not able to do things that lead to this projection. This projection is there for a reason, meaning that in a relatively short sample, they had like a really good X-slug percentage, or they had some really good at-bats that led to some either really good or really bad outcomes. Like, a couple really good at-bats is going to feed into the model and say this player is good at having at-bats, and they probably have a good matchup. So if we look at the Cubs are up against Antonio Senzatella, who has, in the models, in the simulations, he gets blown up 20.6% of the time. So the Cubs have a really good matchup here up against Antonio Senzatella, and Michael Hermosillo has some really good underlying base stats in a short sample, so he's going to project super duper well. As you can see, like the Cubs project well in general, right? Like Hermosillo, Patrick Wisdom, David Boat, like there's a lot of Cubs that rate really well. Ian Happ, and a lot of that comes from matchup. You can see the same thing with the Pirates up against Humberto Mejia, where he gets blown up 19% of the time in the simulation, so of course the models are going to like the Pirates. A lot of my models are very, very heavily based on the pitcher that the team is facing. So hopefully that answers the question. It's a short sample thing, but I like to leave the short sample things there just in case the model is picking up on something that could be real. A lot of the time, probably not real, but I don't really care about a lot of the time, because if I'm right 5% of the time on a 1% owned Michael Hermosillo in a Cub stack that is like 1% owned or something like that, then that can lead to like the 1 GPP win that I need to be profitable for the entire year. So hopefully that answers that question. But of course, all that being said, like if you're building a Cub stack, like don't skip Hermosillo. Like he's min price, he's an outfielder. Just fucking just use him, you know. Sheets love a Colorado Cubs game stack. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Antonio Senzatella sucks, dude. Like, Antonio Senzatella is the worst pitcher on the Rockies. And the Rockies have had, without a doubt, the worst bullpen in terms of upside. Like, the Orioles bullpen can be relegated. I don't even consider them when I'm talking about, like, the MLB, because the Orioles are a minor league system with a minor league pitching staff that literally just should not even be in the MLB. So I don't even consider them. When you're considering actual MLB teams, the Rockies have the worst bullpen. They bleed whip, they bleed base runners, they give up a lot of hard contact, they give up a lot of extra bases. Like, it's just bad. And Antonio Senzatella being the worst pitcher on the Rockies means that any team that he's facing is going to get a really nice boost. So, yeah, the Cubs look really, really nice. And the Rockies up against Kyle Hendricks. I mean, Kyle Hendricks has been over the hill for, I don't know, a while, most of the season. He just throws, what would Nicky say, cookies? Just throws cookies over the plate all day. Just Rockies can just eat them up, you know? That being said, I mean, Kyle Hendricks still has, like, some decent outcomes, right? Like, Antonio Senzatella, his most likely outcome is this 15 to 20 fantasy point range, right? Which is okay. But, like, his second most likely outcome is negative fantasy points. So, that's bad. Kyle Hendricks, at the very least, like, his most likely outcome is also this 15 to 20 fantasy point range, and then followed by 10 to 15, and then followed by 20 to 25, and then finally we drop down here into the blown up range. So, 50% of the time, he's still scoring, like, okay, especially for his price at 8,100. He's still scoring okay for his price 50% of the time, but there's 15% of the time where he gets just absolutely decimated by the Rockies. And, you want to exploit that, especially if nobody's going to have the Rockies. Like, we go over into scoring percentages, and the Rockies are an aggregate of 30% owned, which is, like, the second lowest on the slate, just above the Mariners. Like, nobody is going to be on the Rockies. And the Rockies have power. Like, the Rockies do not have terrible hitters. Elias Diaz hits the ball really well. CJ Cron has been on fire. Sam Hilliard is really good against right-handed pitchers. They still have Trevor Story. They still have, like, Ryan McMahon. They have all this shit, man. Like, the Rockies are not as terrible of a hitting team as people like to think. It's just, like, they don't have Arenado. That's pretty much it. Pablo, my man. Yeah, I'm doing a stream today. I just felt like had a little bit of time. Just wanted to kind of, like, talk about the slate on stream rather than just posting my regular thing in the Discord. I'm still going to post a regular thing in Discord, but yeah, wanted to chat a little bit up until lock because I don't do this enough. I want to do this like when I have time, when there's like slates that start at 5:30 but not one at 11, because that's when it's easiest, right? Like, I can't do this on Sunday. Sunday is fucked up. Especially because FanDuel wants to split the slate into like a million different pieces on Sundays, so like I can't do it Sunday. But I can do it today, and I can probably do it like Thursdays or something like that. And then when football's around, like, I'm going to be doing the stream Saturdays, right? Like, going into Sunday. And then I'll probably do a review stream as well, which I did all of last year on, Tuesdays? So yeah, Tuesday and Saturday are going to be regular streaming days for NFL, and then probably want to do another stream, maybe playing video games, I don't know, Thursday or something like that. So trying to stream more often. Let us kind of close this out really quick with my things that I would do on this slate. I don't really know what to call it, like the thoughts, right? The thoughts. So, favorite stacks going to be the Cubs and the Pirates, just overall for main stacks. That's just where I would go if I was building one lineup. Secondary stacks, certainly like the Rockies and the Athletics. I would probably throw, I think, the Mariners in there as like another secondary stack because their average projection is actually pretty good. They have a lot of value on FanDuel as well. So, main stacks, Pirates, Cubs, secondary stacks, Rockies, Mariners, and Athletics. For pitchers, I'm just not going to use Alex Manoah. Like, he's okay. It's not bad, but like when you weigh how much he's going to be owned against how often he is actually the top overall scoring pitcher, the math just doesn't work out. If I was going to MME, like, I'd have some, but if you're only building 1 to 5 lineups, you can probably just like safely fade Alex Manoah. And at that point, like, you might want to get some White Sox in there as a secondary stack. But my favorite pitchers today are going to be Lance Lynn and Daniel Lynch. I don't think you really need to get that much different outside of that. Like, Jordan Montgomery is fine, but he really doesn't project all that well and he's 10K. So I think that I'd probably just stick to like Lance Lynn and Daniel Lynch. If you're gonna MME, for sure, you're gonna want some Jordan Montgomery. You're gonna want some Will Crow. You're gonna want some Marco Gonzalez. But I would stick to these green tints in MME as well. So Lance Lynn, Daniel Lynch, Jordan Montgomery, Will Crow, and Marco Gonzalez would be where you would get the most of your exposure on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, it looks like that's mostly the same. So those would be where I would be going. My favorite DraftKings combination would be Lance Lynn, Daniel Lynch, Pirates, and Cubs for sure. If you have more money that you need to spend, you can jump up from the Pirates or the Cubs up to the Athletics as well, and I think that's a fine way to go. On FanDuel, probably I would be going something like Daniel Lynch with Athletics and Pirates. Daniel Lynch, Athletics, Pirates, or Lance Lynn, Pirates, Cubs. I would do that on FanDuel as well. So thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out. I'm going to go write that down in the Discord. But yeah, hopefully I can do this a little bit more often. And yeah, when NFL starts, obviously I'm going to be doing this a lot. So thanks for tuning in. I'll go answer whatever questions you guys have in the Discord. And I'll talk to you guys later.